Hi everybody, I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all are having a great day today. So I'm out here in my backyard and I'm coming out here to film this video for y'all. It's a little bit later in the day, so it's a little bit warmer, so bear with me if I get hot throughout this video. I usually have my outdoor time in the summer in the early mornings and in the later evenings. But I had a little bit of a late start today. I had to go to the grocery store and do a few errands, so here it is. Here I am a little bit later in the day, but it's okay. I'm behind this tree that's kind of shading me with all of its big, large branches and leaves, so I get a little bit of shade here, as you can see, but it is still a little bit warm. But this video is about non-duality and mindfulness. So mindfulness is something that's become very popular, especially within like self-help, psychology, things like that. So I'd like to really just share my own experience about non-duality and mindfulness for you and just kind of give you that perspective. So as far as mindfulness goes, let's start with that because, you know, I've shared a little bit about non-duality with y'all, and I've shared my journey about that in my earlier videos, and you can go back and watch those. Those are the ones that have like the infinity symbol and the S, okay? And those are all my original videos from right after I had a non-dual awakening. So you can kind of see the progression of things from watching those if you are curious. Okay, so getting back to talking about mindfulness. Now, mindfulness was something that was first introduced to me, I would say, let's say 7 years ago. So about 7 years ago, I went to a therapeutic convention for counselors and mental health professionals here in Texas. And they had a big conference there in Austin, Texas. And the majority of all the classes that I would choose, or, you know, most of the classes that they were offering, they had speakers that were speaking about different topics that they were wanting to share with mental health professionals. So, you know, you pick certain classes to go throughout the day, or different speakers that you want to hear from. So I picked the stuff that, you know, resonated with me, and it happened to be all of it was mindfulness, and I had never heard of mindfulness. And, you know, I was a mental health professional at that time. I still am now, but, you know, at that time, I kind of felt like, wow, I haven't been keeping up with, you know, the advances and things in psychology. And I was really surprised because I thought that I had been. Well, come to find out, there has been a shift in psychology and self-help and all of these kind of professions where you're providing maybe therapeutic services for people. A shift into more of mindfulness, and a big shift into person-centered therapeutic practices. What that means is that you really go with the flow of the person. It's not so much what the, let's say, psychologist knows and, you know, what they believe should be the track for the person. They go with what the person is wanting to explore. So it's very person-centered, and you kind of go where the person wants to explore. So if they're not ready to open up a certain topic, even as a professional, maybe you think that is a topic where, you know, everything that is their trauma is hidden, and that's why they're trying to avoid it, and they're going everywhere except the issue. Well, it is actually more therapeutic to allow them to go to all of these other areas and heal those first before they go to the big one. So person-centered type of services are like that. You allow the person to lead. So that's why it appears sometimes that therapists and things are very passive, but they're listening and they're allowing for this space. And this space is something very special and sacred because this is not a kind of space that you can really get with friends, family, and stuff like that, to talk about like childhood trauma, things that really need to be spoken and kind of released, okay? So that is that. But the other part of it was mindfulness. And mindfulness was what I was learning in these conferences. And the way that it was explained in these conferences, it was just a conference, but I went to several different classes and things. But in that conference, they talked about mainly just being aware of everything that's happening. Being aware of, for example, your body, scanning your body for discomfort, scanning your body for changes. So being aware of yourself, okay? Are your shoulders tight? Is your neck tight? Is your jaw tight? You know, these certain signs that indicate that there might be an issue. Or maybe you feel very relaxed, you body scan, you feel very relaxed. Well, what are you doing at that moment? So this is for you to kind of get to know better yourself. Okay, so that is a body scan sort of mindfulness. So that's one sort of way that was sort of shown to me at that time at the conference. So one person was speaking about body scanning, which I find very, very important, and I continue to use to this day. And it's not something really you need to learn. It's just something you need to pay attention to. It's something that's already happening. So the next thing would be scanning the environment. So scanning your environment to see how you feel in that environment. So being mindful of your environment. So we talked about mindfulness in your body. Now it's mindfulness in the environment, okay? So wherever you are. So you will notice that you will enter different environments and you're going to feel differently in different places. Have you ever noticed when you entered a home where there's very like stale or dark energy? It doesn't feel very good. It feels uncomfortable and most people want to leave, right? So that is scanning your environment. For example, one place that I try not to go to, and it's nothing against that particular store or anything like that, but you know, there are stores for me that I enter and the energy is very dense. Very, like you can tell, you know, it's either the people in there or what's happening in there is very dense, okay? And so with that, it doesn't feel very good. So most likely that'll be the place I do like a pickup order from. So you have to be aware of your environment and how it's making you feel. So not just body scanning your body, but scanning your environment for how is that making you feel. And the other place that you can do mindfulness is literally in nature. And this is my favorite thing to do. Of course, the other two ways are very practical, very useful ways of doing mindfulness that can benefit you, you know, right away. Now, so can this can also benefit you right away, but you may not be used to this. So it may take some time depending on how you are with nature. I have and know some people that are not even used to being outside. So that might be an environment that they have to get used to. So, let's backtrack a little bit with that. So let's say it is a person that needs to get used to being outside. That's not their usual environment. Well, you want to make them as comfortable as possible, or let's say it's you, right? So make yourself as comfortable. Get yourself a nice chair to sit outside, get yourself a nice drink, make it a nice experience for yourself, because if you're already not like a person that naturally loves nature, then this is going to be something that you're going to have to kind of feel comfortable doing. And when you do it, you will see, you know, what you've been missing all along. But anyhow, you know, make it a nice experience for yourself, okay? This doesn't have to be like, you know, some, you know, rough kind of thing. This is beautiful. This should be relaxing and it should be renewing and refreshing for the mind. So in mindfulness, let's say you're doing mindfulness in nature, get yourself the chair, sit outside and just observe, you know, observe nature, just look around, see what's happening. If you have like bird feeders or things like that, sit near those bird feeders, watch the birds and how they interact with each other, how they play with each other, how they talk to each other, how they eat, how they bicker with each other, how they fight with each other, okay? Because all of this will begin to open up parts of you that you didn't even know, you know, were there, and they will spark insights for you, even human nature type of insights. I'll watch animals and realize so much more about human nature from just observing animals. It's so strange. But animals are very honest. They're just themselves and they don't have those filters like we do, and so they're just living life, and we can see that and observe that, and it's so light, right? And the energy is so light. It's not that dense energy. It's so light and airy that you can just observe it and know it, and it just feels good, you know? Even if they are bickering, it's almost funny. So so observe nature, observe animals. If you have animals, even before you even go outside, let's say you're a person that doesn't want to sit outside, especially right now in the summer. If you have like pets inside, like cats and dogs or birds or whatever you have, observe them, but get very quiet and literally just observe them. This isn't a time to be talking on the phone and observing the animals or being outside. This is a time to be totally disconnected from, let's say, others. Like you are just there as an observer only. There's no music playing in the background. The music playing in the background is the beautiful birds. Do you hear them? The cicadas, the wind, the sounds that are naturally occurring in nature. talking about sounds can be very relaxing, and that's why so many meditation videos and affirmation videos have these beautiful sounds in the backgrounds. Sit there and just listen. What about doing mindfulness with just your hearing? Go outside and just close your eyes and just listen to these sounds. Listen to them. See what happens. What happens. If you begin to have thoughts, there's nothing wrong with that. Observe the thoughts as they come by, just as if you were observing like a bird flying by or something. There's no judgment there, whether it's good or bad. It's just flying by like a bird. You'll begin to notice that you are not that thought. You are not, let's say an emotion comes up. You are not that emotion. Let's just say a discomfort arises. You are not that discomfort. Let's say pain arises. You are not pain. You will begin to notice this as you sit in this state. Just you don't have to close your eyes. You can or you can't. Mostly if you're doing mindfulness, I like to keep my eyes open and actually observe things, unless, like I said, you're just doing like maybe an auditory thing or, you know, a touch thing. But generally I keep my eyes open and I observe. For example, my dog is like sitting over there. And if I sit here and observe him and he's like, you know, panting, breathing a little heavier because it's hot outside, that is mindfulness. If you just observe the breath of him breathing, you know. Anyhow, so going back to sound. Sound is something that we cannot disconnect from. It's just happening. So that is another clue. And when I'm talking here, all of these are actually pointers to non-duality. You may not know that, but these are all pointers to non-duality. So when you hear a sound, when you're hearing, let's say I'm hearing cicadas right now and a few birds, I can't like get away from that. That is seamlessly connected. It's all here and now, like happening. So you can't separate the sounds that are happening. I just heard another sound. Like, I didn't create whatever toad is making noises over there. I didn't tell that toad to start, you know, that's just all happening. And the noise that's already in my ear that I've already heard a toad, I had no time to stop that or whatever, prevent it. I didn't even know that would happen. That's just happening. You can't stop life. Life is just happening at all moments. The more you practice mindfulness, you will begin to notice this, that literally you do not have the type of control that you believe. Life literally is happening, okay? It's just literally happening. Then what is happening within you? What's happening within you? Let's say your love or whatever about it. That's all happening as well. Okay, but you gotta piece it all together. How is that just happening, and how am I still feeling like I'm doing it? You know, all of that is just kind of like gonna clear up for you. The more that you spend time in nature, the more that you do mindfulness, you will begin to notice how things just happen. And you will begin to notice how really things are always just happening. Even when we're at the store, when we're with our friends, when we're at work, things are always just happening. They say nothing about us. We have no responsibility about that. It's just happening. Okay? So sit with that for a minute and think about that. Think about all the ways that things just happen. You may really want to do something tomorrow, but you get sick. That's just happening. You cannot control this, okay? You can give it love, you can give it imagination, you can give it energy, and it can kind of begin to move and shift for you, but you cannot control this as this person. As this limited person, you are not doing this. You are not. So the more you spend time realizing this, just by life showing you this, you will see this. So the times that you're busy, you're occupied, you're not aware of this. So it's important to take time aside to do this, to spend time completely alone. Don't bring your family or everybody out with you. Let this be a time for just you, in solitude, in nature, or with your animals or whatever, observing. And so then the thoughts will begin to come by. Those thoughts don't mean anything. Even if those thoughts are saying, oh, you don't understand mindfulness, you're having all these thoughts, or why are you thinking about work? None of that matters. Let the thought go by. Say, hi little birdie. Bye, little birdie. It doesn't matter. Okay? So continue to listen and observe this current reality that you're living. Okay? So that's one other form of mindfulness, is just kind of being in nature and observing literally what is. So I wanted to make a point of sound, because something that happens is that even in the most quiet spaces, it's never quiet, just to let you know. So even if you're in your room or whatever, you turn everything off and it seems like it's so quiet, it's never completely quiet. You can't separate yourself from noise. Like, that's impossible. You're always with it. How do I know this? Actually, somebody asked me the other day on my comment section if I remember when I had my non-dual awakening. Yes, I do remember that. I remember exactly when it happened. I remember every bit of it, okay? So for me, it was an experience where I remember it. Now, does it have to be that way for everybody? No. You can have an awakening at any point in time, under any circumstance. So anything can happen. So, but for me, yes, I did remember my awakening, and I was in bed, and it all happened from actually from mindfulness. So it happened from my twin flame journey. Yes, I was really in suffering from twin flame journey and everything that had happened. And if you're interested in to know the exact details, I have a book about that in the description. But it was twin flame that kind of brought me to all this activate it all. Let's say that. But in the moment when I was in bed, right before I had my awakening, something happened right before, literally like seconds before I had the awakening. So in my twin flame journey, my twin flame passed away. And so I had, it just spontaneously happened that I had a telepathic communication with him at all times. Like, I could talk to him at all times. He would talk to me in his voice and his personality, also reveal all kinds of things to me, and continues and is able to do that now. You know, that just continues. Of course, that is all seen through. It's not something that I cling to or want to even share, because that's not something that is really important. Because after you have this non-dual realization, you realize how everything is, okay? So that's just another play of life. Let's just say that. But in that moment, I didn't know all of that. So in that moment, I had my voice that I thought was in my head talking to him, and I had his voice talking to me, and at the same time I had God talking to me and talking to him. And I was very confused, and I was like, what? You know, what is happening here? Like, have I gone like completely crazy? Do I need to like go check myself into a psych ward? That's what I was thinking, because I had three voices in my head that were like now talking all to each other. And so in that moment, all of a sudden I pause and I say, okay, what's happening here? I feel some kind of knowledge come out within me and say, that's all the same. That's all the same. Everything is the same. Everything is nothing, and nothing is happening. There is no one voice. There is no two voices, three voices. There is no voices. There is nothing. And so I realized that. I realized that that voice that had been talking to me with all these thoughts, whether they were good thoughts or bad thoughts, was never me. And the twin flame that I thought was talking to me this whole time was never really my twin flame, was always just what is. And what I thought was God was the same as all of this. So in that same exact moment, everything went silent. And when I say silent, it's not something I've ever experienced again. The level of silence I'm speaking of can be probably terrifying. But the only reason I wasn't terrified was because at the same time I was being drowned with love. And I mean drowned with it to the point where you almost want to escape from it. But it was still comforting, because if it was the other way around, I probably would have been scared to death of the silence. So the silence was not like silence in a house or in a room when you turn everything off and every light off and everything off. It wasn't like that. It's not silence when you're, I don't know, I don't even know, but it's not any kind of silence I've ever experienced. So this kind of silence is scary. This kind of silence is like you've been annihilated, like that's it. So I had the experience of silence, and right then and there, everything went black for me. And I could literally see how I wasn't anything and how I was everything at the same time. As I began to come back, it actually passed about 3 hours, I believe. I didn't realize the time when it happened, but when I came back, I checked my clock and I was able to know that time had passed. But in the moment, what my experience was timelessness. So I experienced complete timelessness, complete silence, complete loss of self, complete just realizing that none of those things were ever me, and that there is nothing, and everything is just the same. Everything is one. So as I began to come back into my room, I can remember my room so vividly now, because I came back into what was my room and I began to see everything, you know, the appearances, my dresser, my table, like my makeup, all the things that were there. And I began to see them kind of like as part of me, like merging into me, like there was no space between them. And they all appeared and felt like part of me. Okay, so in that moment, I felt the interconnectedness of everything. Okay, and the love didn't, like all of that extreme amount of love I had that was like kind of love bombing me, it kind of began to fade a little bit, but I still had a lot of it. And so I was in this blissful state, and it was amazing. But all that's to say that you could literally realize non-duality through mindfulness, through just being aware of the thoughts and voices that maybe that you have in your head, and just kind of observing them and realizing that they are not you. The fact that they are coming through with such, you know, odd things and random thoughts, and can even, let's say you have a telepathic communication, or you are speaking with God, or you think you're speaking to, let's say, your grandmother or an ancestor of some kind. You're not. You will begin to realize that in mindfulness, okay? Now, if you have a bunch of voices going and you feel like they're controlling you and doing things and they're extremely negative, then that can be something completely different. That can be, you know, a mental health issue, a psychosis of some kind. So be aware of that. You know, this is something very loving. This is something very, very beautiful. There's a lot of mosquitoes out here. I'm kind of like, and that's just another thing that's happening. So, you know, these things just happen. You know, we can't prevent what's going to happen. You know, who knew that there'd be all these mosquitoes out here? They're just things that happen. Sometimes there are, sometimes there's not. You know, sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day. That's just life. It's not, it doesn't mean anything, and it's not really happening to you, and it has no real long-term, you know, weight or anything. So anyway, going back to mindfulness. So you can be mindful of sounds. You could close your eyes and do mindfulness that way. You can also just do mindfulness in your movements. So just being aware of your movements, moving a little bit slower. When before I had my awakening, I was always moving very fast, doing things always in a hurry. So with mindfulness, you kind of slow down. You begin to do things a little slower. So I share my awakening story and how that connects to mindfulness, all to say that, you know, mindfulness can bring a state of interconnectedness or unity, because the more you spend time in these states, the more you realize and, you know, observe all these different ways in which you're not doing it, in which it's just happening, and the beauty of it all. So then you begin to have this interconnectedness that begins to, you know, evolve and change into other areas, into where you see, you know, the unity between you and, let's say, that dog, or you and, let's say, somebody at a grocery store, or wherever you're interacting with them. So it kind of is a gateway or an opening for what non-duality or non-dual awareness really feels like. It is that state. It is that state of just being, you know, in direct experience without, you know, the mental chatter, without the thoughts, without the judgments, without the personalization of everything. And just in this state of really just observing what's happening as it's happening for no reason. Not because it's happening to you, not because it says anything, just because it's happening. And then you can see how everything is just so connected. And if it's connected like this, if you can really get to the point of seeing how everything is one, then your world really begins to change, because you love everybody. You see everyone as yourself. So it just kind of expands and expands and expands. So each thing builds on the other. So I would really, although I didn't spend a lot of time doing mindfulness myself, I do body scanning and certain things. I don't do it like that often. It is literally just a way of life. You know, I can say, oh, I don't really do it, because I don't do it as a practice. It's just part of life now. And so this is something that you can kind of integrate into your life and kind of experience this non-dual awareness just throughout your day. So it's not really like a practice, because there's nothing really to practice for. This is what it is, and it's all going to be shown to you through things like mindfulness. You don't have to do any sort of practice to get anywhere. It's already here and now. Everything's here and now. But the more you spend time observing it, the more that you will understand and see some of this. And then who knows, through that alone, you may make the connection or have the awakening that could really shift you. Or in that alone can begin to change your life so much, because in mindfulness alone, so many people have like transformed their lives, and people use this as therapists. Like I say, I learned this at a convention. Therapists use this as one of their therapeutic forms of practices. So, I mean, if this is what they're using to cure and help, well, not cure, but, you know, help the process of a lot of emotional trauma and issues that people hang on to, what could this do for you, you know? And this is something that you can literally do on your own, anywhere and everywhere. Even just things like washing your hands, taking the time to just see how the water feels running through your fingers, through your hands. What's the temperature of it? What does it look like? So this is something that is really realized after a non-dual awakening, but there's no reason you can't realize that now. After my non-dual awakening, everything began to get so much brighter. And it looked different to me. It looked very different to me. So I would look at like flowers or plants or animals or anything, or just things in my house or when I went shopping, and everything looked so much more alive. But do you know why it looked so much more alive? Because I was actually looking at it. I was actually seeing it. Before, I was walking on autopilot, like going through the store, just in a hurry to get out. I'm talking on the phone while I'm in the store, or you know, multitasking, doing so many things that I'm completely missing life. Being in my head, thinking about the past, the future, whatever, you know, work, this, that, and the other. In doing so much, you're not present. You can't see what's here. And so after my non-dual awakening, I literally began to see the world for the first time. I mean, it's really crazy, but that's how it felt. Like, this is the first time I had seen the world, which is so sad in some ways, but at the same time, I was so grateful that I was seeing life, because it is beautiful. Spend some time, pick a flower and really look at those petals, you know, look at the pollen or whatever's on the flower itself. You know, if you're able to get the roots out, I mean, I don't want you to hurt a flower, but, you know, do these things to kind of, you know, allow yourself to really observe life. It's beautiful. Observe yourself. You know, we might be a little more judgmental observing ourselves, so maybe start with other things. But as you go along this journey, it's important to observe everything, because through everything you will see, it's just happening. And then, you know, once you have this realization, you will see how everything is here and now, how there really is no self, how there is no time and space, how there is no buddy that dies or lives or does anything really. This is all a play of life where everything is here and now, and it's perfect and it's complete. So when I'm talking about creating things and this and that, it's already here and now. There's no stress. Whatever you want's here and now. Everything. It's already here and now, and it's all just happening. It's not something that we really have to do a lot for. We just have to love ourselves and love all that is, because it is us. It's beautiful. So I really encourage you to do some mindfulness and There are mindfulness meditations and things on YouTube, although there is no replacement for actual nature. Seriously, like, if you can, I would want you to, if I could give someone a suggestion, it would be to actually get into real nature. Actually get near a real animal if you're going to observe an animal, or, things that are occurring. Or children, go observe children at a playground. Oh my goodness, that's the best thing ever. I used to teach pre-K, kindergarten, and 5th grade. That children are amazing for this. Go observe children. Just don't be creepy about it, but it's another part of life that's just happening, and it's very innocent, and it's very raw, and it's very direct, and they do what they want. Maybe more in the 5th grade age, like after the age of 7, they have a lot more, things about themselves that they're self-conscious about or whatever. But before the age of 7, they are still just children that are just enjoying life. So if you have children or whatever, that might be another thing that you can do to work on your mindfulness a little bit. Now, again, this isn't a practice. This is just something that is pointing to what I'm talking about. So I invite you to observe this in nature. I invite you to observe this in your pets, in your children, in your relationships, and what you're doing and what other people are doing. Observe other people. It's funny because like they're doing it, and it's just happening for them too. There's no judgment there. So everything begins to be a lot more lighthearted, a lot more loving. And that interconnectedness, if you can ever get to that state of oneness, your relationships begin to improve, because you love everybody and you see everybody as yourself, and you have that grace for everybody, that it's just happening. And a lot of people are a lot more unconscious about it, and so it's really just happening for them. For people that are a little bit more conscious, or they've had this awakening, they're aware that it's just happening. And they allow grace for themselves, they allow grace for others, and also they realize a little bit how you can really love life, and through love and imagination you can kind of choose, because everything's here and now and complete. Like, the whole story is here, all the stories are here, the whole bookshelf is here with us, all these stories about you. Which one do you want to read? So this is the whole thing. Start with something like mindfulness. That's a great place to start. So many people are stuck on watching all these videos, and although I'm making these videos and I would love for you to watch my videos and other people's videos, it's not the videos. It's going to resonate, and this is another thing that you can do. If you're resonating with it, you can watch videos, but don't let it be the majority of your free time or day. Make sure that you're doing some actual things that are in direct contact with this reality that is appearing for us, like nature, the dogs, and things like that. This video doesn't make it any better or worse, but it's already somebody else's experience of this. You have your own. Whatever's going to happen for you could be very vastly different than what happens to another, and only you will know that. But the only way that you know your path is really to get away and become more, solitary, spend a little bit more time alone, have less opinions, staying away from social media, stuff like that. The more that it's bare, just you and nature, the more you'll begin to see these things. There are so many distractions in life that keep us from this, and I've spoken about just different things. If you're on my channel, please watch some of the other content and stuff. Some of it may not seem like non-duality to you, but they are my experiences, and literally there are situations and programs and TV shows and environments, like I was talking about, that you have to be mindful about. And this is using mindfulness, how they make you feel, what they make you think. Because have you noticed how the news, I don't know, for me the news makes me cry. I don't want to watch the news and sit there and cry about all of this horrible stuff that's happening. Yes, I have compassion. It's not that I want to ignore it. but that's not where I need to be spending my energy and time. It doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. So you want to go where you resonate, where you feel at peace, at ease. And, you know, that's your true nature, is peace, is ease. Okay. So, I think that's all I want to share on this video. It is a little warm out here, but I do plan to come out here tomorrow morning, and I am going to film a few mindfulness videos for you. And I'm going to film these. I was debating whether or not to like use some stock content from, you know, websites and stuff like that that create like the meditation kind of nature scenes and stuff like that. I was thinking about getting some of that and then just using my voice or, you know, something, but I've created kind of a script that I want to share with y'all to kind of bring y'all into mindfulness. It's kind of something that you could listen to before you start your mindfulness practice, something like that, and then it kind of puts you into that state of being aware of these things. So I'm going to film that tomorrow, but anyhow, I was thinking about doing the stock video. And then, you know what, after talking about how this is just a lot more, you know, using actual nature that you're involved in, and all of that is a lot more, you know, it just seems to resonate a lot more and seems to just work within the person a lot more. I'm going to film the video out here, probably different nature scenes around the property. I will try to get some videos of the animals and things like that, as well as incorporate this script for y'all. So check back for that video. That'll be the following video to this one, and that one will be able to kind of get y'all started with your mindfulness practice if you haven't started it yet. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this, or maybe any suggestions or tips for others, please share down below in the comment section. If you want to email me or need any more information from me, my information is in the description box below. Thank you so much. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would really love to have you here. I love you all, and I hope that y'all continue to have an amazing day today. Thank you so much.